so that we can experience them, so that we can learn, so that we can gain knowledge. And this circle is not from the Lion King. This is not the circle of life. Another thing about this circle, though, is I find that it's timeless. In the beginning, Genesis 1 says, in the beginning, God spoke. And then in Ephesians 1, we are told that Christ brings all things back. God spoke creation out, and Christ unites and brings all those things back together. It's, to me, Christ answering the call, the need, going through the trials of life here, leaving what was familiar to him and coming down in human form. Ultimately, putting in place the kingdom and returning to the Father. This circle could apply to your life, right? From start to finish, you maybe have 70, 80, 90 years in this circle. It may be a dynasty. It may be a nation. The life cycle of it. It could be just a year in your life. But this is how we experience life itself. So this morning, what I'd like to do is have you come along with me with the birth of a little baby boy. And that baby child starts off like we all do if we are lucky enough to be born to a loving family where the mother and the father bring that young baby home and they put him in the crib. And from that point forward, he's getting familiar with his reality, right? He's slowly starting to learn his mother feeding him. He's slowly starting to experience, hopefully, a father that's involved who's changing him. I don't know if you were like my experience, but somewhere around 5 or 6 months, trying to any parent is really intent on that baby child rolling over. It's a big deal. People start to worry actually at this point. My baby's 6 months old, hasn't rolled over. So-and-so's baby's already rolled over. And you start cheering it on. I know that I have video footage of every one of my grandsons as I saw them push with that foot and push with that arm, just cheering them on, calling them out to an adventure. And then that day happens. And they roll over, and it's a whole new world for them. And the parents. Exactly. It's a whole new world for the parents. Because when that baby was just lying in that crib, everything had an order to it. But now this child can roll over. And now this little baby boy can roll off the couch. Now he can roll off the mattress. Now he can, God forbid, plummet from the changing table. And now chaos can ensue. Because now there's a trip to the hospital because you got to get this little baby x-rayed because you're worried about him hitting his head. And doctors are asking questions. Why did this child fall off of the couch? And you're like, my baby rolls over. And I just can't control that anymore. You see now the trials that can come? But that little baby has now been transformed. And eventually rolling over is going to become familiar to him and to you. What's next? Walking, crawling. Same call to adventure. Just cheering that little boy on as he's starting to rock. And now the chaos, because now he's mobile. Eventually he's going to walk. Eventually he's going to talk. You see how this circle just keeps going round and round throughout life, bringing us in from what we know to what's new. Somewhere around the age of 2 to 5, our little baby boy is learning how to play. He's learning how to interact with his peers. He's learning how to be socialized. What's acceptable, what's not. Hopefully, he's had some training. And he's taught not to bite and not to be selfish. Get to our teenage years, and our circle keeps turning. Because now, what happens? When you become a teenager, what happens? You start pulling away, right? You've been through this at all? Kids start to learn to find their own tribe. People that they can identify with. You want to have a little bit of input here, but you don't have all control over this. Maybe it'll be a basketball team. Maybe that'll be their tribe. But it's going to happen. Because you're not useful outside of that. But once you become part of a collective, I believe the next step for you is to actually find your individual self. What I call here to be a hero. To take those things that you've learned and to become above. So let's take a look at this real quick. Learning how to play. Look at this description of play, right? Kids are learning to communicate. They're learning how to make this whole thing enjoyable. They're learning what it is to be meaningful, to be social. You went through this. We all did. And it never stops. You should never stop playing. Because that's how you learn. That's how you learn. You imitate. What's one of the first things kids want to play? They want to play house. I'll be the daddy, you be the mommy, and we're going to play house. They want to bring about to themselves what they see in their homes. They want to imitate what is good. Last night, we got to eat dinner with Julie and Wayne. We had a great time. One thing you learn if you spend time with Julie and Wayne is they are playful. They have a playful marriage. You can watch as you're having conversation. They set each other up. He did it last night, right? I asked him, I said, Christopher fell, hit his head. Wayne says, yeah, but you don't have to worry about his head. And Julie says, yeah, because he takes after his dad. You're not going to hurt him. And she said, thanks. And he's like, I know, I set you up for that one. They love to play cards. They love to play Yahtzee. They love to play. Why? Because all these things that mean something, you're able to do together. Is it scriptural? Man, how many times did I hear growing up from my 3rd grade teacher, from my 4th grade teacher, from my 5th grade teacher, went to a small Christian school. This is what recess was all about, guys. This is what recess was all about. You need to learn how to play together. Whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them. For this is what the law and the prophets hang on. This is compared to what's the greatest command of all, Jesus? To love your God with all your heart, soul, mind, might. To love your neighbor as yourself. For on that hangs all the law and prophets. The golden rule, same thing. Same thing. I said you're going to find a tribe. You're my tribe. Do you know that? Do you know that? I choose you. I'm thankful for you. And just like this silly little slogan right here, find your tribe and love them hard, we need to love each other. A tribe is a social division. In a traditional society, this consists of families. I didn't get to choose that. Or communities which are linked by their economies, by their religion, by blood ties, with a common culture and a common dialect. What happened at the Tower of Babel? Right? God says, we need to put these people into tribes. Change their languages, and what happened?
They're confused.
Sure enough worked. Sure enough worked. It puts you into a tribe. And this never changes, guys. You never stop playing, and you're never going to stop finding your tribe. It may be where you work. It may be where you worship. It may be gun shows. It may be craft shows. It may be the medical field. Law enforcement's full of it. People who seek out one another, want to be with one another. Look at Acts 2. This is right after Pentecost. And they, that's a tribe. Who was the they here? This is the 3,000 people who were just baptized, right?
Okay.
3,000 people who were just baptized, and they are now a tribe. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teachings. That's something you're going to find. That's what you'll find in a tribe, is a set of rules. They had fellowship with one another, the breaking of bread, and prayers. And all who believed were together and had all things in common. And then I wanted you to see what a hero is. Every tribe will have a leader, and every tribe needs heroes. Who's our leader? Who's our leader?
Christ.
Christ is our leader. Was he admired? Do you admire him? Was he courageous? A couple of weeks ago, I said he set his face to Jerusalem knowing that he was going to die. Was he courageous? Outstanding achievements? Yeah. Yeah. Possess noble qualities? And what are you to do? If this is your tribe, what are you to do? You're to emulate the leader. You are to be little Christs. Not just think he's a good guy. You are to become him. That's what that circle was about. 1 Timothy 3. Paul says, this saying is trustworthy. If anyone aspires to the office of overseer, bishop, presbyter, elder, if anyone aspires to that, he desires a noble task. And then Paul goes on in Timothy and in Titus to list out these characteristics that he wants of these people who are to be leaders in this tribe. You see those. Read those. Are you emulating those? Some of these things you may have a biological predilection to be able to carry them out, and others you're going to have to work at. I'm not too bad at being self-controlled. Hospitable? I got to work at that. Bill and Loretta? Man. You see the example I have to follow there? Gentle? These are the characteristics, though, that all Christians should be achieving. And you're going to achieve it because you're called to that. You're going to suffer trials when you try those things. But it will transform you, and then it will become a part of your life. Look, this is, what did Jesus say to Nicodemus? Except you be born again. What did he say to those who were not able to handle meat? It was a shame to them because they had to learn the first principles again. They had stopped that circle. They had stopped growing. We're in danger of that. I want to go through this letter with you. It's one of the shortest in the Bible. This is a letter we call 3 John. It's from John, and it's to an individual. Tradition says Gaius lived in Pergamos. You remember a few weeks back we talked about the altar to the unknown God, and I had a picture up of that. That was an altar that was found in Pergamos. John writes, now I want you to think about that circle. John writes, the elder, to the beloved Gaius, whom I love in truth. Beloved, I pray that all may go well with you, and that you may be in good health as it goes well with your soul. We're going to infer some things from this letter real quick. What do we know about Gaius? Well, we know he was a Greek, right? We know he was beloved by John. We know that he walked in the truth. We know that somewhere somebody taught Gaius the gospel, and he stepped into that call to adventure. We know that Gaius was baptized, don't we? He took on that initiation into that tribe. We know Gaius then was transformed. He wasn't necessarily comfortable with this, was he? How could you? This is a whole different lifestyle than what you've grown up with. Pergamum was known for idolatry. John says, I rejoiced greatly when the brothers came and testified to your truth, as indeed, Gaius, you are walking in the truth. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are walking in the truth. John had sent out preachers. They traveled to this church, and Gaius was hospitable to them. He was kind to them. Beloved, it is a faithful thing that you do in all your efforts for these brothers, strangers as they are, who have testified to your love before the church. You will do well to send them on their journey in a manner worthy of God. For they have gone out for the sake of the name, accepting nothing from the Gentiles. Therefore, we ought to support people like these, that we may be fellow workers for the truth. Gaius was able to play well with others. Verse 9, John says, I have written something to the church, but Diotrephes. Now here's where I want you to plug in. I want you to plug in that circle with Gaius, and I want you to plug it in with Diotrephes. Diotrephes was a believer. He was a member of the church. He had been baptized. He had chosen that tribe, the same as Gaius. But what was wrong with Diotrephes? He put himself first. You want to see a kid alone on the playground? It'll be the kid who puts himself first. It'll be the kid who's selfish with his toys. It'll be the kid who can't get along. But Diotrephes, who likes to have the preeminence, does not acknowledge our authority. So if I come, I will bring up what he is doing. He's talking wicked nonsense of us. Is that good? And not content with just that, he refuses to welcome the brothers and also stops those who want to and puts them out of the church. Picture that in this tribe. Picture that here. How would that look? If I were to just take somebody and bodily escort them out. Beloved, do not imitate evil. Imitate what is good. Whoever does good is from God. Whoever does evil has not seen God. Demetrius has received a good testimony from everyone. It's thought, tradition says Demetrius may have been the letter carrier here. And from the truth itself. We also add our testimony, and you know that our testimony is true. I had much to write to you, but I would rather not write with pen and ink. I hope to see you soon, and we can talk face to face. Peace be to you. The friends greet you. Greet the friends, each by name. To me, Gaius is a hero. He was just like everybody else in that church. But there was something special about Gaius, in that he was hospitable, and he was loving, and he was kind. There was something not good about Diotrephes, who was selfish, who wanted to have first place, and who was willing to physically throw people out of the church. So, again, I take you back to that circle. Here's the thing. Christianity is not something you should ever be comfortable with. Because if you're comfortable, you're not learning. If you're comfortable, you're not taking on new risks. If you're comfortable, you're not serving, because serving isn't a matter of comfort. That's one of the hard things about it. Being hospitable usually causes some discomfort. When you come here on a Sunday morning, are you just comfortable? Nothing's going to be required of me. I'm nobody special. I'm not Gaius. I'm not Diotrephes. I'm just this lukewarm, tepid person that sits in the middle. I'm just here to, I don't know, check off a box. If we're continuing to grow, Julie said last night, one of the things that she loves in life is continuing education, continuing to learn, to always be a student, to push yourself. But that isn't comfortable. I guess I want you to just
Relax.
actually, I don't want you to relax. I want the opposite of that. I want you to work. Nowhere in the gospel do I see a retirement age. But I've seen men do it. You ask them, I don't want to do that.
That's for young people.
That's for the young. Let me tell you what. I need the old. I need you to lead. I need to have someone to follow after. And that's how we get this thing done. Man, I asked Jason to lead singing last week, and he didn't even hesitate. Yes, I'll do that. Were you comfortable?
No.
Thank you.
Well, he does good.
That right there.
He does good.
He does great, but it's not comfortable.
No.
Calm down. We're done. We're done.
Now you can.
Now you can relax. I asked you to see, why am I here? I full well agree with Jim. Romans teaches us our whole lives are to be worship. But when we come together, we have acts of worship that we participate in. We need scriptures read. We need prayers led. We need songs led. We need this led. We have to have this. Why? Because it's the way God made us. It's the way we're made. And he doesn't just call you to be another guy sitting in a seat. He calls you to be an elder. He calls you to grow. He calls you to be a Gaius. He wasn't the only guy in that congregation, but he was so special that John called him out and said, "This is how special you are." So check yourself. Why? Because I'm guilty of it. when I don't have a lesson to give, and Gary hasn't asked me to do anything, I consciously think to myself, this is easy. I'm just gonna sit here and be served. It's just easy. All right.
Hey, Shasta.